All right. We are live. We are live, coming at you on a variety of platforms. It is Spin Doc Sports and Sosa on behalf of Win the Day VIP, and it is World Series time. It's World Series time. So if you're like my man next to me, you're especially excited because I think that we have a Dodger fan in the house. What do you think? I think so. I think we have a Dodger fan in the house. Before we get going, please make sure give us a like to the tweet, to wherever you're watching this. Give us a like, share. We really do appreciate it. Also, please make sure to follow if you're not already. Follow myself at Spin Doc Sports, at Sosa Picks, and at Win the Day VIP. So, got a whole bunch of stuff coming at you. We got plays, we got analysis, we got futures, we got all the things that you need for game one. So, before we get going, before we get underway, Sosa, how are we feeling about the World Series? How are we doing?
Oh man, I feel like I'm on top of the world looking down on creation. It's one of the greatest days of the year, one of the greatest days of my life. Anytime your team gets to contend and actually compete for a world championship, because it sounds good to say you're competing for a world championship all year long until you actually get there. And as a Dodger fan, I've been prepared to be let down a multitude of times over the last couple of years. I was prepared this year. But I think Dave Roberts has done an immaculate job, an amazing job as a manager. Someone that doesn't get the respect that he really deserves, in my opinion. I feel like he's done a great job of managing the bullpen, managing egos, and just pushing all the right buttons. And on the other side, shout out to the Yankees, man. Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge. Legacy is such a big part of this sport, especially when you put up amazing statistics. And Giancarlo Stanton obviously has been, kind of dogged in the city based on, his performance during the regular season. But it shows you that when you perform in the postseason, people's the way they look at you, the way they talk about you, everything changes. And I love seeing that dynamic take place in the playoffs, where sometimes you didn't do it for them in the regular season, but when you come through in that big moment, it just changes everything. So that on both sides, I respect to the Yankees. Again, two best teams in baseball based on record. Both teams spend money, none like us, obviously, but yeah, just super excited, man. Super excited.
Yeah, I've heard a few of my friends who are more casual baseball watchers being like, people cheering for the underdog, and some people wanted like a Cleveland San Diego World Series. And just for me, if the Twins ain't gonna make it, and obviously this year they ain't even close, then this is the one I want to see. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I don't really give a fuck about buying World Series and all the spending all the money. I don't really care, because this is where the best players are, and this is where the best pitchers are. This is where the best games are. And so, I still would have watched no matter what teams are playing, but this is the two right teams playing in this moment. And these are the two teams with the most star power. These are the two teams that we're probably going to draw, of all the playoff teams, the most viewers. And we have the potential for some of the most exciting games. So for me, yes, I like an underdog story too, but I usually save that for college basketball. I like watching that in March Madness. When it comes to professionals, when it comes to this, I personally like seeing the stars, especially in the World Series. And that's what we have tonight. So, or that's what we have this whole series. So, any other thoughts before we kind of get underway with game one and then the series?
Nah, man, not going to talk any shit, because the expectation is this. When you give Shohei Ohtani $700 million, you might not think, hey, you're going to immediately get there because he's not pitching, right? We know why he got the money. He's a unicorn. He's a special talent. He's something you've never seen. Had an extremely insane season, stole a bajillion bases, led off, hit, a ton of home runs. So yeah, the expectation is to be here. The expectation is to win some of these, not just one. And I don't want to get into the LeBron, not two, not three, not but
Yeah.
the expectation is this. So I feel like the standard has been met. Now we got to go win it. So that's really it. excited. Definitely, like I said, super excited for what we're about to do. We're about to make some money with the people, and it's going to result in a Dodger World Series win. So it's great to start.
All right, well, let's start with game one first. We'll do game one, and then we'll do some more series stuff. So game one kicks off tonight at 8:08 p.m. Eastern time. You have Garrett Cole against Jack Flaherty out at Dodger Stadium. Right now, current money line is Dodgers are minus 130, Yankees plus 110. Total is at 8.5. The run line is Dodgers minus 1.5, but it's super juice. Yankees plus 1.5, obviously super juice. So books are saying that it's a close game. Books are saying it's going to be a close game. Initially, Sosa, any thoughts on the lines themselves for the game for tonight?
Everything's fair, man. Obviously we're not heavy favorites at minus 130. But I do think that, Flaherty, should perform well. As far as the lines go, I'm not, no surprise. Just, the money line being playable at minus 130 is lovely to see. Yep. But other than that, I think we'll be favored in every game.
Yeah, I think it'll be close. Maybe the only game where you won't be would be if you do a bullpen day because you got because it's I'm assuming that it's going to go Flaherty, Yoshi, Walker, which and then possibly a bullpen day. But yeah, but every game at home for sure. For me, looking at the lines, I have a slight lean on the under. I have a little bit of trouble actually getting there right now for reasons I will explain when we get to the pitching stuff, because I think that kind of breaks it down a little bit more because there is one pitcher that, at least if you look at the lines and you try to read tea leaves on lines with books, which for those of you that follow me know that I do quite a bit, is that there is one pitcher tonight that at least from a line perspective looks like he could get tossed around a little bit. So that's where for the full game under, a slight lean at the under 8.5 at plus money, but with two offenses like this, especially with the fact that none of even the Yankees hitters that have seen Flaherty, those two being Soto and Rizzo when they were in the NL with the Cubs and the Padres, is that they haven't seen him since he's changed, since he went through Tigers training camp and really changed the way he pitches, which I'll talk about when we get to the pitcher stuff as well. So there's just not a lot of history there with who Jack Flaherty is as a pitcher today. They know Jack Flaherty from before, and he is a different pitcher today. But again, I'll explain that in a little bit. So I have a slight lean on the under 8.5 for the game tonight, but really not so much on any of the main game lines. I'm with you. I think that these are all set pretty well appropriately. So kind of going into the game, so for tonight, any props that you're looking at before I do the pitching breakdown?
As far as props in this one, I love Mookie Betts tonight. I think Mookie Betts to get 2 hits or a plus 210. I love that. I like Mookie Betts to get 2 total bases at minus 105. I think, again, I'm very high on Mookie Betts in this series. I think people forget that he is, one of the best postseason performers of all time. I think people also forget that Aaron Judge is older than him. And that, Mookie is arguably the most accomplished player as far as winning right now in all of baseball. So he's on the verge of winning his 3rd championship and being the centerpiece of all 3, or one of the major parts, right? Like obviously Shohei would be the centerpiece this season, but Mookie has, he's beat the allegations. He's performed very well in the playoffs, outside of like two games and early on where they started saying he was not good anymore or whatever type of bullshit they were trying to say. But I like Mookie tonight. Like I said, 2 hits at plus 210. I love it. Maybe sprinkle on his home run at plus 440. And I also, again, I'm not opposed to Shohei. Anything Shohei. I think both the primetime superstars that we expect to perform well will perform well. Yep. I think, and I think that I like Garrett Cole. I think Garrett Cole's, one of the best pitchers in the game, arguably the best pitcher in the AL over the last 5 years, without question. Right? I think not even arguable. He's been the best pitcher in the AL over the last 5 years. So like I said, again, but in this one, I like my lineup against him. I like my lineup against what he's going to bring to the table, and I actually also like us to jump on him straight from the start. I expect us to swing at some pitches. I expect us to be active, even though we've been the most patient lineup in baseball. We're very patient, very, very patient. I think that with Garrett Cole, get after him early. Like I said, I like Mookie's home run. Look at my boy Harold at plus 440. I love it. Total bases, Mookie 2 hits. I like all three of them. I think, again, he's going to go into this knowing if you're going to ever try to pitch around Shohei Ohtani to face Mookie Betts, let's get it. I'm here for it. Let's get to that one. Straight to it.
Love it. So for me, non-pitching props, I'm going to do non-pitching first because pitching is going to be a separate breakdown. I personally really like Giancarlo Stanton to get an RBI at plus 115. He has this progression where he has periods where he just kind of sucks and for parts of the regular season, and then really turns it on for the postseason. Stanton has an RBI in 7 of the Yankees' 9 postseason games. He has multiple RBI in 3 of those. He's also coming up on where he's had an RBI in 3 straight games, multiple in 2 straight. He's just seeing the ball so well right now. And with where he bats in the order, with what I'm looking at for some pitching things, I think that it's definitely possible that he can at least get an RBI. So 1 is plus 115 right now on DraftKings. I think if you want to have a little more gamble, you can sprinkle on 2+ at plus 390. There is a world where he definitely gets that. Don't mind the Mookie props at all. And I also, I don't mind some of Soto's props. However, my problem with that is that some of them are just so freaking juice. Like his hits prop is like minus 205, which I'm not paying that for anything. Total bases at over 1.5 at plus 125. I don't mind that one at all. And then over on the Dodgers side, the one that I'm looking at for, at least for a hit or for potentially for some bases, Max Muncy. Muncy is just seeing the ball so well right now. Very, very, very patient, which is going to matter when I talk about pitching props coming up here. His over is to get a hit right now is minus 130, little juicier from what I normally want to pay, but I don't mind that one in the least. So from a hitting perspective, my official ones for this show would be Max Muncy to get a hit at minus 130, and then also Giancarlo Stanton to get 1 RBI at plus 115. I also don't mind sprinkling on 2+ RBI at plus 390. Go light on that one if you're going to play it. But Stanton has just been clutch this postseason.
You get Stanton at plus 140 on FanDuel right now.
Do that one instead.
You might be able to get like a better number. Let me check one of these apps. But go ahead. I just want to.
Yeah. Do that one. All right. So with that in mind, I'm gonna give you a little visual here, and we're gonna go to the pitching props. So like I said yesterday, I go super, super deep for the World Series. My write-up for game 1 for both pitchers that I just dropped to VIP is 8 pages long with graphics and everything. It's not just me writing sentences, but here's a little snippet of what it's about. And this is a lead in into the pitching. So starting off here, we will start here with Garrett Cole. And so looking at Garrett Cole, I see a few things that stand out. This is the chart that I always post for VIP that compares the whiff percentage of his pitches compared to the hitters, the contact, both zone and outside the zone, and the history versus the starting pitcher. So when I look at this, I see a few things. First of all, is that nobody on the Dodgers chases. That's been true for the season. That's been true in the postseason. There are 8 of 9 hitters. Teoscar's the only one who's at league average, but all of them chase either below or significantly below league average. Why that matters is because since coming back from the IL, Garrett Cole has been operating in the zone a little bit less than league average. What he's also been doing is his edge percentage is up. Edge percentage is how often you try to hit the edges of the zone. So you probably more commonly known as paint the corners or paint the edge. So that is up as well. So you have a team right off the bat that doesn't chase. Now I go hitter by hitter. And the 2 guys that I think that he can probably K at least once for sure would be Ohtani and Teoscar. 1, because of the history. 2, because both of them do swing pretty freely in the zone. And both of them have at least have high whiff percentages to the slider, which is one of Cole's put away pitches. So I see that. And I also see that both of them with zone contact for the league being 82%, both of these guys are down in the 75, 76 range. Not saying that neither one of them are going to have a good game. I'm just saying that the potential for both of them to strike out is relatively high. So you get 1 from Ohtani, you get 1 from Teoscar Hernandez. I go and I look and I see, with given the history, there's probably at least a chance that he gets Muncy or Edman, even though Edman has a very low strikeout percentage in the playoffs. Still, two out of 5 isn't a huge sample size, but there is the potential there. So you get 1 for there. Now the question then becomes, with a line at 4.5, if you factor in, let's just say between all those guys, that's 3, right? That's 3. Can he get 2 more across the rest of the lineup? And can he? Well, sure he can. The problem here becomes is that this is where I talked about how you have to read the lines. Cole's outs prop for tonight is at 15.5. That is the lowest that it's been the entire postseason. He's been at 17.5 ever since coming back. He traditionally is their guy that goes 6 to 7 innings. And so even in a World Series game, even on the road, is that when you see a drop like that, you have to at least pay attention to it. The other thing I noticed with Cole's line is that if you go and you look at his earned runs prop, it's still at the same 2.5 that it was when his outs were at 17.5. So what the line is telling you is one of 2 things. And this is how I broke it down for VIP, is that it's telling you that Cole is either going to have a shorter start and potentially get knocked around a little bit, which given the offense he's playing wouldn't be a huge surprise. The other way is that where he can still have a good start but not pitch as many innings is if he racks up pitches, potentially walks some guys, but also gets a bunch of strikeouts. So if you're getting quick outs against this Dodgers team or against any team, then the 15.5 obviously would be an overlook. If you don't think that's going to happen, and it was a little surprising to see that down so much, then you might want to look under on the outs. I can tell you, at least especially looking on X or on Twitter and social media, is that people who bet trends are going to just be all over the over for this one because he's hit it in however many out of however many. For those of you that know me, I don't cap that way. I don't bet that way. I don't play that way. What I look at is, why is the line set that way? Is it just because it's the World Series and he's on the road? No, they don't typically do that. If they were, they would lower it to 16.5 and probably juice it to the over to indicate a slight down degradation in outs. Going from 17.5 to 15.5 is a dip. And it's something that you have to pay attention to. So I think that there's at least a decent chance that Cole gets knocked around a little bit. You can look at his earned runs over. You can look at his outs under. To me, the one thing I wouldn't do for any of Cole's pitching props on the road tonight is I would not pay juice on an over. Not necessarily saying I'm going to be on all the unders, but I would not pay juice on an over. The Dodgers lineup is too dangerous. And if they're saying that he's not even going to get through the lineup or get to a third time through the lineup, then that indicates that he might get touched a little bit. So overall, that's kind of my synopsis on Cole. I think there's a few what I call dead spots in this Dodger lineup. So you have Betts, who's only struck out 1 on 18 times. You have Enrique, who's only struck out 3 in 25 times. Even you have Freddie, who's 7 out of 22 isn't like horrible. So you have a number of spots in this lineup where you have guys that are going to potentially take some pitches and rack up his pitch count. Now, the big thing with Cole is that while he spends around league average or a little bit below in the zone, his zone percentage, pitcher average for the year is 48.7. His zone percentage against Cleveland in that last game that he pitched, 36. Now, he got fortunate because the Guardians chase a ton, and you might think that was by design. So he threw outside of the zone knowing that they would chase to try to induce weak contact. But you go back and look at his 2 starts prior against the Royals, and 56 and 54 zone percentage for a team that chases more than the Guardians does. So I'm going to be watching that very, very early. I'm going to see how often he's in the zone, because you have, as you can see here, 6 out of 9 Dodger hitters are above league average in contact in the zone. In fact, some of them, like Mookie or Smith and Edman, are significantly above it. So if he's going to go outside the zone and guys aren't going to chase, that's another way that he could rack his pitches up. So moving on to Jack Flaherty. So Jack obviously had a very, very poor start the last time he went out. But when you really dive into it, you can see a pattern forming. And that pattern is number of days of rest. So since June, Flaherty has had 4 starts where he's had 4 days of rest, including the one against the Mets in Game 5. In those games, his fastball velo is down by an average of 1 mile per hour. For those of you that don't follow pitching props that close, that's a really, really big drop. Half a mile an hour is big for a guy that only throws 93, 94 to begin with on his 4-seamer. So he doesn't have huge velo. When that goes down, then he only has 2 other pitches that he throws, the slider and the curve. So when you only have 3 pitches that you throw, you can't throw one of them. They just saw you 4 days ago. The snowball effect isn't that big of a stretch. So, but when Flaherty is on regular rest or more, especially when he's on 6 days rest as he is today, his ERA goes from 3.6 down to 2.45. His strikeout percentage goes up by almost 3. And his 4-seam fastball velo normalizes and is usually even a 0.2 to 0.3 miles an hour ahead of where his season average is. Now, the one thing with Jack, and this is why I'm reluctant, and I'm just going to say it because I haven't given his K's any which way to VIP yet. I need to see lineup construction because of the fact that you look at across the Yankees lineup and you see that only 3 of them chase. And why that matters is because Flaherty operates in the zone at one of the lowest rates among regular starters, only 45%. And he's been around there pretty much the whole time. If you look at his spray chart, you'll see his fastball runs high, slider and his curve run low and away. He does try to get you to swing and miss outside the zone. But what don't the Yankees do? They don't chase. This is one of the lowest chase teams in the league as a team. And this is also a team where even the 3 guys that do chase, Volpe, Stanton, and Rizzo, you look at their chase contact and you see Stanton is under league average, but he's on a tear this postseason. Volpe and Rizzo are way above and make great chase contact. So it's fine if you chase outside the zone if you're going to make contact doing it. And that's what these guys do. So that's where I'm a little gun shy about the strikeouts to begin with. The ones that I think you can for sure look at for Flaherty are his outs over, because he's down even a little bit from last game. I think there's probably some feeling that bettors were snake bitten by how bad he was in his last start. But I go back to, it was on 4 days rest. This one is not. This one is on 6 days rest, where his ERA drops by almost half a full point and his strikeout percentage goes up by almost 3. So I would also lean Flaherty potentially earn runs under. That one's a little more iffy to me. But the over for outs is where I'm looking. The other thing I want to talk about is of the guys he's got history against, that being Soto and Rizzo. Not that I'm saying that you can't play their props, but here's what I would tell you. This is not the Jack Flaherty that they are used to seeing. And here's why. In training camp, Jack Flaherty worked with the Tigers pitching staff to change multiple things in his mechanics. What they noticed was since his coming back from injury, he had been pitching very mechanically and trying to line his body up appropriately. He was changing all these things. Jack Flaherty used to play outfield and shortstop in college and in high school, and in addition to pitching. So he's a very athletic guy. He's naturally athletic. And the changes that they made now that he's fully healed, coming back from injury, is to go back to how he used to deliver the ball before and make a few tweaks to use his athleticism to naturally push the ball to generate more spin, more movement, and for his fastball, more velo. So Rizzo and Soto have not faced that Jack Flaherty yet. You can watch it on film, but it's a little different when you're actually facing them. I'm not trying to talk anybody off any props for those guys. I'm just telling you is that comparing past history doesn't always correlate, because Jack Flaherty both changed his pitch mix. He took out his cutter. He almost eliminated his cutter completely. And he is going almost exclusively those three pitches with fastball, slider, and curve. And he also completely changed some of the mechanics of his delivery. So that's kind of my breakdown on Flaherty. And last but not least, because it's baseball, we have to pay attention to the umpires. So umpire Carlos Torres. He's not quite Alfonso Marquez, who is the most hitter-friendly umpire that there is, but he's close. He has one of the lowest strikeouts per game at 14.8. Umpire average is about 16.5. And you look at these two pitchers and their zones, and you see where he is tight on. He's tight at the bottom of the zone. He's tight at the top of the zone. Doesn't really give you a lot of edge calls. And this has been pretty true for his entire season. So when you have an umpire like this behind the plate, and you have two pitchers that try to operate on the edges and neither team that chases, that's where I go and I say, okay, I think you have to at least look at some things from an under perspective, just because you do have an umpire that's probably not going to give you a lot of favoritism when it comes to calls if you're trying to paint the corners. So, those are my general looks, my general thoughts on tonight's pitching matchup. I do think that it's more likely than not that Cole gets smacked around a little bit. So if you're looking at some of like even Dodgers first 5 team total over, you can potentially look at there. But the big thing that I would tell you to pay attention to is a pitcher who's been at 17.5 outs for the entire season and who is their unquestioned workhorse, all of a sudden going down to 15.5, even against this lineup, even on the road, is something to pay attention to. All right. So that kind of sums it up from a pitching perspective. So do we want to talk about some futures? Because I know you had some. Are you on mute? Yeah.
I got somebody telling me the plays in my head. I had to channel in and lock in with the person I had to lock in with the cheat code, right? All right. So in regards to the series, there's some bets that I love that have crazy value on the board. Now, any person that hit a couple of home runs, a 2 home run game is at like a plus 2,000. I think someone could hit 2 home runs for sure in this series in a game. I think that's definitely within the realm of belief. I put money on 2 people for MVP. I like Mookie Betts at plus 750. Well, he was plus 9. I got him at plus 9. It's plus 750 now. And then the 2 other guys I had to put some money on were Teoscar Hernandez, who hits lefties better than anybody. Baseball, for being honest, one of the best righties against lefties in all of baseball. He also may be moved up and down in the lineup based on the availability of Freddie Freeman. Obviously, Freddie's gotten about a week off to rehab that ankle, but his ability to hit left-handed pitching and his ability to just be good throughout this playoff run is a reason as to why you would love Teoscar. And then I put a couple dollars on Max Muncy. I think Max Muncy, again, another unsung hero. Obviously, Kike Hernandez is a LA County fucking legend. And, so, he's gonna get opportunities. I'm so glad that Dave was smart and was, and also we got very lucky with Kike. Let's be honest. If Pages doesn't get hurt, Kike might not even be playing. Right. So like it's kind of just how you start thinking like, man, some of this stuff just kind of, I don't want to use the word, but it's like the way, because Kike, obviously this is second run with us. He obviously went to Boston, had some success, came back. And again, like, I just feel like things have fallen really into place in that. Other than that, as far as the series bets, I like us to win the series in 5 games. I like us in 5. I know people are probably going to say I'm a fan or whatever. It's the best lineup in baseball. I think Judge is a special talent. I think when you talk about team sports, you don't need a whole lot when you got these 3. You really don't. And I'll be honest with you, like people just and it's not me being a fan. It's just the honest truth. You need the back half of your lineup to be decent, somewhat productive, okay, when you have these 3 guys on your team. And I just think that that's what it is. I think that we're going to get those contributions because our role players have no pressure on them because they know what we're going to get from these 3. We know what we're going to get. If one person comes along for the ride and can play their part, I don't see a scenario in which the Yankees can dominate us in any facet on either side of the ball, whether it be pitching or hitting. I don't see anywhere where they can it's just like definitively they'll just be better. Unless we forget how to hit a baseball, unless these 3 guys forget how to hit a baseball, we're gonna win the World Series in five games. If 6 at the most, but 5, I got us winning the series in 5 games. That's me. Yep. That's my thoughts on it. And it's no disrespect to the Yankees. I think the Yankees are a great baseball team, but it's our time. It is what it is. You've seen it. We crushed Cinderella's slipper in the last series, and we're going to be the good guys in this one. Simple as that.
For me, for the series, one of the things that I'm looking at is this is on DraftKings. I think for me, I can actually pretty easily see after game, it's the correct series total after game 4, and Dodgers 3-1 is plus 245. My official pick for the series here is Dodgers in 6, which it's the chalkiest right now for the series props, but it's at plus 400. So I'm probably going to be taking small sprinkles on both of those. I can see LA winning both games in LA, then splitting the first 2 in New York, and then coming back home to win it in game 6. That's just my thought for how the series plays out. If you're asking me like for the series prop, I mean, Dodgers, yes, but I don't necessarily like taking a whole series with all the things that can happen, go right, go wrong for either side at a juiced price. So, and even with the Yankees being at plus 105, that's not enough value for me. So I'm not going to be taking anything on that. The ones that I probably will be sprinkling on are Dodgers 4-2 for the series at plus 400, and then the Dodgers to be up 3-1 after game 4 at plus 245. For tonight, I already kind of talked about how, I do think that the Dodgers win the game. I'm not sure that I really want to pay for minus 130 for juice in a World Series game. When I'm doing full game props like that, I tend to only do plus money. And I certainly don't pay high juice for anything. So I saw a few questions from earlier that I wanted to go back to. I know Adam's Digest. Can you guys touch on the break that each team has gotten into the playoffs? Does that help the pitcher or the hitter? For a guy like Flaherty, it certainly helps the pitcher because I talked about the stats that he has on more rest. Cole on more rest is about the same regardless. So I think that for veteran teams, I think it definitely helps the hitters because more time to study film, more time to get ready, more time to prepare. And I think for if it was a younger team, for either one, or less experience, less stars, if you will, less like big time vets, maybe it would be a little bit of the opposite. And I saw the other question from Harold: would this result in more walks? Some of the stuff I know I talked about for pitching, it can, yes. Carlos Torres does have one of the higher walk. He has one of the lowest strikeout to walk ratios among all pitchers. There's 94 that I've looked at for the year, and I think for strikeout to walk ratio, he's 78th in strikeouts to walks, and he is 91st in overall strikeouts per game. But it also depends on how both guys pitch too. So if Cole only wants to spend 36% of his time in the zone, then it's probably going to be a long night for him, and he probably will rack up some walks or get into some pitchers counts, which, especially against the top of this Dodger line, or some hitters counts against this top of the Dodger lineup, you don't want to be doing that. You really don't want to be doing that. So I think if he attacks them in the zone, you might see him give up more hits, and you might see him give up maybe an extra run or two, but not necessarily walk guys. So it depends on how Cole wants to approach this game, because like I said, against a team that chased more than the Guardians, he was in the zone 54 and 56%, which is above pitcher average. Against the Guardians, who chased a little bit less, but still above league average, he was only at 36. So the question really becomes, was he just starting to lose control at the end? Which at the end he was, because I watched that whole game. But at the beginning, he was trying to paint the edges and corners. Painting the edges and corners has not had a lot of success this year with Carlos Torres behind the plate, especially when you have teams that don't chase. So any other thoughts, bets, props for this one, Sosa?
I'm ready for the parade. I don't know about
Oh, sorry. I saw one more from Adam's Digest. With rested bullpens, do we take pitcher under outs? That I kind of touched on that earlier, is that if you're looking at it, the one thing that I wouldn't do is I wouldn't look to pay juice on a pitcher outs over prop at this point in the season because of exactly what you mentioned with bullpens. I think that even though you do have a manager in Aaron Boone who rides Cole typically until the 90-95 pitch mark, dropping from 17.5 to 15.5 is something you just don't see in a situation like this, even on the road. All right.
Yes, sir. Listen, I don't want to sound too arrogant. I already get a bad rap for people think of that. So I'm going to humbly say we're going to beat the shit out of the Yankees.
Perfect. All right, that's going to do it today for us, guys. Please make sure to share this video if you like what you heard. Hopefully, we gave you some good insight, and please make sure to follow Sosa Picks, follow me, Spin Doc Sports, follow Win the Day VIP, and we will be back at you during this series with more analysis, more plays, more everything. Also, make sure to check us out on Sunday. We got Sunday morning quarterbacks. So we got Sunday morning quarterbacks coming at you Sunday morning with plays, picks, analysis. I'm also going to do another fantasy video. All a bunch of stuff coming. Give us a follow. We would love to chat sports with you. Till then, Spin Doc Sports and Sosa Picks saying, let's do it. World Series time, baby.